Welcome to Success Audiobooks, a space created for those who understand that real success is built quietly, patiently, and consistently through daily choices rather than sudden breakthroughs. And we're glad you're here for a full-length audiobook designed to reshape the way you think about discipline and winning habits. If you've ever felt inspired for a moment but struggled to stay consistent, or wondered why some people seem to move forward steadily while others keep starting over, this audiobook is for you. Because lasting success is not about motivation, but about the routines you repeat when motivation fades. Today's audiobook is titled Success Habits Audiobook Full-Length Build, Daily Discipline and Winning Routines, and it is a deep, practical exploration of the habits, mindset shifts, and daily systems that successful people use to stay disciplined and focused over the long term. This audiobook is not about shortcuts or overnight results, but about building routines that support progress even on difficult days, helping you develop discipline, clarity, resilience, and direction in a realistic and sustainable way. Before we begin, we invite you to subscribe to Success Audio. Like this audiobook, share it with someone who wants to build better habits and long-term success, and leave a comment telling us where you are listening from, because your support helps this channel continue creating thoughtful, high-quality audiobooks that support real personal growth. Before we go any further, it's important to understand that this full-length audiobook is structured into 8 carefully connected chapters, each one designed to build daily discipline and winning routines step by step, so nothing feels rushed or overwhelming. Every chapter deepens what came before it, allowing you to understand not only how success habits work, but why they last when motivation fades and pressure appears. Chapter 1, The Foundation of Success Habits. Why discipline always comes before results. This chapter is important because every visible result in success is built on invisible habits that are practiced long before recognition, achievement, or confidence appear. In this chapter, you will understand what discipline truly means beyond motivation. You will learn why habits shape identity more than goals do. You will discover why waiting to feel ready delays progress. You will see how discipline creates stability when emotions fluctuate. You will learn why routines protect effort over time. You will understand how winners build momentum quietly. You will explore why consistency matters more than intensity. You will learn how daily actions compound into long-term success. You will understand why discipline is a skill, not a personality trait. You will see how habits remove decision fatigue. You will learn why self-trust grows through repetition. And by the end of this chapter, you will clearly understand why discipline is the true foundation of every winning routine. Success habits begin with discipline because discipline creates action even when motivation is absent, inconsistent, or completely gone, which is important because motivation is emotional and temporary by nature. When discipline replaces dependence on feelings, effort becomes reliable instead of sporadic. Reliable effort builds structure. Structure reduces chaos. Reduced chaos preserves energy. Preserved energy supports focus. Focus improves execution. Execution builds confidence. Confidence reinforces discipline. Over time, discipline becomes part of identity rather than something forced. This is how progress becomes steady instead of fragile. Many people struggle because they wait for the perfect moment to begin, believing that clarity, confidence, or motivation must arrive first. But discipline works in the opposite direction by creating clarity through action. Action reveals feedback. Feedback improves direction. Direction strengthens focus. Focus reduces resistance. Resistance fades through repetition. Discipline teaches the mind that progress does not require perfect conditions. This realization removes hesitation. Movement replaces overthinking. Growth becomes active. Winners move before certainty. Certainty grows after movement. Habits matter more than goals because goals describe a destination, while habits determine the direction you move every single day, regardless of mood or circumstance. Goals inspire briefly. Habits sustain effort. Inspiration fades. Habits remain. Daily routines quietly guide behavior. Behavior shapes identity. Identity reinforces habits. This loop strengthens consistency. Over time, habits create outcomes without constant effort. Winners focus on systems. Systems outlast excitement. Progress becomes automatic. Discipline also protects energy because repeated routines remove the need to constantly decide what to do next, which reduces mental fatigue that often leads to procrastination and inconsistency. Fewer decisions mean clearer thinking. Clear thinking improves discipline. Discipline supports habits. Habits stabilize progress. Mental energy is preserved. Stress decreases. Confidence grows. Life feels more controlled. Winners simplify their days intentionally. Simplicity supports endurance. Consistency beats intensity because intense effort without repetition leads to burnout, while steady effort allows growth to continue without collapse. Intensity creates spikes. Spikes are unsustainable. Consistency builds endurance. Endurance supports long-term progress. Winners value small daily wins. Small wins compound quietly. Momentum builds naturally. Confidence strengthens gradually. Discipline feels lighter. Growth becomes sustainable. Discipline builds self-trust because every time you follow through on a commitment to yourself, you prove reliability, which strengthens confidence in your ability to persist even when challenges appear. Broken promises weaken belief. Kept promises restore trust. Trust stabilizes effort. Effort builds results. Results reinforce discipline. Over time, identity shifts. You begin to see yourself as consistent. Consistency becomes normal. Discipline becomes self-respect. Growth accelerates naturally. Routines protect discipline by anchoring habits to time, environment, and cues, allowing action to happen with less resistance and less reliance on willpower. Predictable cues trigger behavior. Behavior becomes automatic. Automatic behavior conserves energy. Energy supports focus. Focus improves execution. Discipline thrives within structure. Structure reduces chaos. Progress becomes reliable. Winners design routines carefully. Systems replace struggle. Ultimately, discipline comes before results because results are simply the outcome of repeated actions aligned with purpose, patience, and consistency over time. Discipline creates structure. Structure supports habits. Habits create momentum. Momentum produces results. Results reinforce belief. Belief strengthens discipline. This cycle continues upward. Success becomes predictable. Winning routines feel natural. And once discipline becomes part of who you are, success stops feeling distant and starts feeling inevitable. Once discipline is established as the foundation of success, it naturally leads to a deeper question about how that discipline is carried through ordinary days. Because without structure, even strong intentions eventually weaken under pressure, fatigue, or distraction. In the next chapter, we move from mindset into action by exploring how winners design daily routines that quietly carry their discipline forward, even when motivation is low and circumstances are unpredictable. Chapter 2. Winning daily routines. How successful people structure their days for consistent progress. Daily routines are where discipline becomes visible because while motivation comes and goes, the way a person structures their day quietly determines whether progress continues or slowly fades, often without being noticed. Winners understand that success is not created by occasional bursts of effort, but by predictable patterns that guide behavior when energy is low and distractions are high. By designing their days intentionally, they remove uncertainty, which is one of the greatest sources of mental fatigue and inconsistency. When the mind knows what comes next, it relaxes rather than resists. Resistance decreases naturally. Focus improves. Effort feels lighter. Discipline becomes easier to maintain. Progress begins to feel stable instead of fragile. Over time, structure replaces struggle. Growth becomes dependable. One of the greatest advantages of daily routines is that they reduce the constant decision-making that exhausts mental energy and leads to procrastination, because every decision silently drains focus and willpower. Focus improves. Effort feels lighter. Discipline becomes easier to maintain. Progress begins to feel stable instead of fragile. Over time, structure replaces struggle. Growth becomes dependable. One of the greatest advantages of daily routines is that they reduce the constant decision-making that exhausts mental energy and leads to procrastination, because every decision silently drains focus and willpower. Focus improves. Effort feels lighter. Discipline becomes easier to maintain. Progress begins to feel stable instead of fragile. Over time, structure replaces struggle. Growth becomes dependable. One of the greatest advantages of daily routines is that they reduce the constant decision-making that exhausts mental energy and leads to procrastination, because every decision silently drains focus and willpower. Winners eliminate unnecessary choices by deciding in advance how their mornings begin, how their work is approached, and how their evenings wind down, allowing action to happen without emotional negotiation. This predictability protects discipline during stressful periods. Energy is preserved for meaningful work. Momentum builds quietly. Confidence grows through repetition. The mind becomes trained to act rather than hesitate. Progress continues even on difficult days. Routines carry effort forward when motivation disappears. Morning routines matter deeply because they establish control before external demands take over, allowing winners to set direction rather than react to urgency. When the day begins intentionally, clarity replaces confusion and focus becomes easier to maintain throughout the day. Early consistency creates a sense of stability that carries into later decisions. Discipline strengthens through early wins. Confidence increases naturally. Stress reduces. Energy is used wisely. The day feels purposeful instead of chaotic. Progress feels earned rather than forced. Evening routines are equally important because they allow the mind to close the day with intention rather than carrying unresolved tension into rest, which directly affects energy and focus the next day. Winners use evenings to reflect calmly, disengage from mental noise, and prepare for tomorrow without pressure. This process improves sleep quality. Better sleep restores discipline. Restored discipline improves consistency. Reflection supports growth. Awareness increases. Small adjustments are made naturally. Improvement becomes continuous rather than reactive. Routines also protect focus by creating boundaries between work, rest, and personal time. preventing attention from being constantly fragmented by interruptions and unfinished tasks. When boundaries are clear, internal conflict fades and effort becomes more focused. Focus improves quality. Quality builds confidence. Confidence reinforces habits. Time feels aligned with purpose. Progress accelerates without rush. Discipline becomes sustainable. Consistency becomes easier through routines because repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity reduces resistance to action over time. What once felt difficult becomes normal. Normal behavior requires less effort. Less effort preserves energy. Preserved energy supports endurance. Endurance strengthens discipline. Discipline stabilizes growth. Progress becomes part of daily life rather than a struggle. Routines also build self-trust because following through repeatedly proves reliability, which strengthens belief in one's ability to persist through difficulty. Each completed routine becomes evidence. Evidence builds confidence. Confidence reinforces consistency. Identity begins to shift. Winners see themselves as disciplined people. Discipline becomes natural rather than forced. Growth accelerates quietly. Ultimately, winning routines transform discipline from something that requires constant effort into a system that supports progress automatically, allowing success to unfold steadily even during stress, fatigue, or uncertainty. Structure replaces chaos. Consistency replaces fluctuation. Growth, it becomes predictable. And when routines are built intentionally, success habits work silently in the background, producing results without constant strain. With daily routines providing structure and stability, the next defining habit of winners emerges in how they protect their attention, because even the strongest routines collapse when focus is constantly broken by distraction. In the next chapter, we explore how winners master focus and attention so their effort produces real results rather than scattered motion. Chapter 3: Focus and Attention. How winners eliminate distraction and create deep progress. Focus is one of the most powerful habits of winners because attention determines where energy flows, and energy directed consistently toward the right actions multiplies results over time in ways that scattered effort never can. Winners understand that attention is limited, which means every distraction carries a hidden cost that accumulates quietly throughout the day. When attention is divided, progress slows even when effort remains high. This awareness leads winners to protect their focus intentionally rather than assume it will remain intact on its own. Boundaries are created. Distractions are reduced. Effort becomes concentrated. Results improve naturally. Discipline feels more effective. Progress accelerates without additional strain. Distraction weakens success because each interruption fragments thinking and breaks momentum, forcing the mind to repeatedly reset and expend energy that could have been used for meaningful work. Winners recognize this invisible drain and actively limit interruptions by controlling their environment and access to their attention. This protection allows focus to settle rather than constantly restart. Depth increases, quality improves, learning accelerates, stress decreases, time feels purposeful, work becomes satisfying rather than exhausting. Multitasking is avoided by winners because, while it feels efficient, quietly reduces performance by forcing the brain to switch contexts repeatedly, increasing fatigue and error over time. By committing fully to one task at a time, winners allow attention to deepen, which improves understanding and execution. Deep focus produces better outcomes. Better outcomes reinforce confidence. Confidence supports discipline. Discipline sustains consistency. Progress compounds naturally. Environment plays a powerful role in focus because surroundings influence attention automatically, often without conscious awareness. Cluttered spaces scatter thought, while intentional environments support calm and clarity. Winners design spaces that reduce distraction and support concentration, making focus easier rather than something that must be forced through willpower. Attention becomes stable. Effort feels lighter. Discipline improves. Mental noise also weakens focus because overthinking, worry, and constant internal planning quietly consume attention even when the body appears still. Winners manage this by externalizing thoughts, clarifying priorities, and gently returning attention to the present task without judgment. Calm thinking restores clarity. Clarity strengthens discipline. Focus stabilizes. Progress continues steadily. Focus accelerates growth because sustained attention allows deeper learning, better skill development, and stronger habits to form over time. Depth creates mastery. Mastery builds confidence. Confidence encourages persistence. Persistence compounds success. Growth becomes exponential rather than linear. Ultimately, winners master focus because controlling attention allows all other success habits to work together effectively, transforming discipline and routines into powerful engines of progress. Attention becomes intentional. Energy is protected. Results multiply. And when focus becomes a daily habit, success stops feeling scattered and begins to feel inevitable. As routines and focus begin to stabilize daily effort, another truth quietly reveals itself, which is that success does not grow simply from doing the right things, but from having the energy, balance, and clarity to keep doing them over time without burning out or losing direction. In the next chapter, we move deeper into how winners manage their time and energy so progress feels sustainable, intentional, and aligned rather than rushed or exhausting. Chapter 4. Time and Energy Management. How winners create sustainable momentum. Time and energy management is one of the most misunderstood success habits, because many people believe that working longer hours automatically leads to better results. While winners understand that progress depends far more on how wisely energy is used than on how much time is spent working. Rather than forcing productivity at all hours, winners pay close attention to when they are mentally sharp, emotionally calm, and physically capable, and they align their most important work with those periods. This awareness allows effort to feel natural rather than forced. Frustration decreases. Focus lasts longer. Discipline becomes easier to maintain. Progress begins to feel steady instead of draining. Confidence grows quietly. Stress reduces. Balance replaces urgency. Success becomes sustainable. Busyness often disguises itself as commitment, filling days with constant activity while producing little meaningful progress. Yet winners learn to slow down long enough to evaluate whether their actions are truly moving them forward. By intentionally simplifying schedules and removing low-value obligations, they create space for meaningful work to exist without constant interruption. This space allows attention to settle. Busyness often disguises itself as commitment, filling days with constant activity while producing little meaningful progress. Yet winners learn to slow down long enough to evaluate whether their actions are truly moving them forward. By intentionally simplifying schedules and removing low-value obligations, they create space for meaningful work to exist without constant interruption. This space allows attention to settle. Decision-making improves. Mental noise fades. Energy is preserved. Focus sharpens. Effort produces visible results. Life begins to feel directed rather than reactive. Prioritization becomes a daily discipline rather than an occasional decision, because winners understand that attempting to do everything leads to diluted effort and eventual burnout. Instead of reacting to every demand, they decide in advance what truly matters and accept that some things must wait or be left undone entirely. This acceptance reduces guilt and hesitation. Discipline strengthens naturally. Energy flows into what counts. Progress becomes calm and intentional rather than chaotic and rushed. Rest plays a central role in sustainable success, even though many people resist it out of fear that slowing down means falling behind. Yet winners understand that recovery is not a reward but a requirement. Without rest, clarity erodes, emotional balance weakens, and discipline slowly collapses under pressure. By protecting sleep, allowing pauses, and respecting moments of fatigue, winners preserve their ability to think clearly and act consistently. Energy renews itself. Focus returns. Motivation stabilizes. Growth continues without collapse. Structure supports time and energy management because predictable routines reduce decision fatigue and mental clutter, allowing energy to be spent on meaningful effort rather than constant planning. When the day has rhythm, resistance fades and habits become easier to maintain. Anxiety decreases. Focus improves. Discipline becomes dependable. Progress feels calmer. Structure does not limit freedom, but creates the conditions in which freedom becomes possible. Winners are intentional about protecting their time because interruptions quietly steal momentum and fragment attention, even when they seem harmless in the moment. By setting boundaries around availability and choosing when to engage, they protect their capacity for deep work and sustained effort. This protection improves quality. Quality strengthens results. Results reinforce confidence. Stress reduces. Time begins to feel aligned with purpose. Burnout is avoided not by avoiding effort, but by pacing, because winners know success is a long journey that requires endurance rather than constant intensity. They adjust when necessary. They listen to warning signs. They slow down before collapse occurs. Balance replaces pressure. Sustainability replaces urgency. Progress continues steadily. Strength accumulates quietly over time. Ultimately, winners succeed because they treat time and energy as allies rather than enemies, allowing discipline, focus, and balance to work together without breaking down. Effort becomes intentional. Progress becomes reliable. Success becomes something that can be lived with rather than survived. Transition to Chapter 5. Even with balance and structure in place, no path to success moves forward without resistance, mistakes, or moments of doubt, which is why the next defining habit of winners lies in how they respond when things do not go as planned. In the next chapter, we explore how winners develop resilience and transform failure from something that stops progress into something that strengthens it. This expectation keeps their mindset steady. Panic is reduced. Focus remains intact. Momentum is protected. Learning begins quickly. Progress resumes sooner rather than later. What separates winners emotionally is not the absence of disappointment, but the way they move through it without allowing it to turn into self-doubt or self-sabotage. They allow frustration to exist briefly without exaggerating its meaning or attaching it to their identity, and then redirect attention toward understanding what can be learned or adjusted. Reflection replaces self-criticism, insight replaces shame, clarity replaces confusion, control returns, confidence survives, growth continues forward instead of turning inward. Resilience matters more than talent because talent alone cannot carry effort through repeated difficulty, while resilience allows consistent engagement even when results are delayed. Uncertain winners stay in the process longer. Staying longer creates experience. Experience improves judgment. Better judgment leads to better outcomes. Over time, resilience compounds success quietly. Many breakthroughs occur simply because winners did not quit when progress slowed. Winners separate failure from identity, understanding that an outcome reflects a moment, a strategy, or a decision rather than personal worth or capability. By removing ego from failure, emotional energy is preserved and perspective remains clear. Adjustment becomes possible without defensiveness. Learning accelerates, strength deepens naturally. Confidence becomes grounded rather than fragile. Adversity refines winners because difficulty exposes weaknesses that comfort would never reveal, turning challenges into opportunities for growth rather than reasons for discouragement. Pressure sharpens awareness. By removing ego from failure, emotional energy is preserved and perspective remains clear. Adjustment becomes possible without defensiveness. Learning accelerates, strength deepens naturally. Confidence becomes grounded rather than fragile. Adversity refines winners because difficulty exposes weaknesses that comfort would never reveal, turning challenges into opportunities for growth rather than reasons for discouragement. Pressure sharpens awareness. Awareness guides change. Change strengthens capability. Capability builds confidence. Each challenge leaves them more prepared than before. Resilience becomes part of who they are. Quitting often feels tempting after failure because discomfort increases and certainty fades. Yet winners understand that quitting freezes progress permanently, while persistence keeps possibility alive. They allow themselves to pause without losing direction. They adjust without abandoning commitment. They remain engaged even when clarity is incomplete. This steady presence protects momentum. Momentum sustains hope. Hope fuels effort. Confidence after failure is rebuilt through action rather than reassurance. Because movement restores belief faster than positive thinking alone. Small steps create evidence. Evidence rebuilds trust. Trust stabilizes mindset. Momentum returns gradually. Winners continue forward even while uncertain. In the end, winners rise after setbacks because resilience transforms failure into refinement rather than defeat, allowing difficulty to add strength instead of taking it away. Learning replaces fear. Persistence replaces doubt. Stability replaces chaos. And when resilience becomes habitual, success is no longer fragile, but deeply rooted and enduring. As discipline, routines, focus, balance, and resilience begin to work together in daily life, another essential truth quietly reveals itself, which is that success cannot remain strong or relevant unless it continues to grow, evolve, and adapt alongside changing circumstances rather than relying on past effort or achievement. In the next chapter, we explore how winners commit to continuous growth, ensuring that progress does not stagnate once results begin to appear. Chapter 6: Continuous Growth: How Winners Never Stop Improving. In this chapter, we explore how winners commit themselves to continuous growth and lifelong learning, understanding that success must constantly evolve through reflection, adaptation, and curiosity if it is to remain meaningful, resilient, and sustainable over time. Winners do not assume that reaching a certain level of achievement means they have finished growing, because they understand that the world continues to change, and that remaining effective requires ongoing improvement rather than comfort or complacency. This mindset keeps them adaptable rather than rigid. Adaptability protects relevance. Relevance sustains progress. Growth remains active instead of fading quietly. Confidence stays flexible rather than fragile. Ego softens. Learning becomes part of identity rather than a temporary effort. Improvement continues naturally. What truly separates winners from others is their willingness to remain students of their own behavior, decisions, and outcomes, because humility creates space for learning while certainty closes it. By staying open to feedback from mistakes, mentors, competitors, and experience itself, winners sharpen awareness and improve judgment over time. Better judgment leads to better decisions. Better decisions improve outcomes. Outcomes reinforce learning. Learning compounds progress. Growth accelerates quietly without forcing change. Winners also understand that learning has little value unless it is applied, which is why they continuously test ideas, observe results, and adjust without emotional attachment to being right. Action reveals truth faster than theory. Reflection refines understanding. Adjustment improves effectiveness. This cycle repeats daily. Learning becomes practical rather than abstract. Knowledge turns into wisdom. Confidence becomes grounded. Progress feels earned rather than imagined. Change does not threaten winners because they expect it, knowing that industries evolve, circumstances shift, and life rarely remains stable for long. Instead of resisting change, they adapt their habits, strategies, and perspectives while maintaining direction. Flexibility preserves momentum. Momentum sustains success. Growth remains alive even during uncertainty. Stability comes from adaptability rather than control. Challenges become classrooms for winners because difficulty exposes gaps that comfort would never reveal, allowing growth to occur where it matters most. Pressure sharpens awareness. Awareness guides correction. Correction strengthens capability. Capability builds confidence. Each challenge leaves them more prepared than before. Growth deepens through experience. By committing to continuous improvement, winners avoid stagnation because they never rely solely on past achievements to justify present comfort. Curiosity remains active. Discipline stays relevant. Progress feels dynamic rather than repetitive. Growth becomes a lifestyle rather than a phase. Ultimately, winners never stop improving because they understand that growth is the only way success remains durable, adaptable, and meaningful across time. Learning replaces fear. Curiosity replaces complacency. Improvement becomes the quiet force that sustains success long after it begins. Transition to Chapter 7. As growth and learning shape the winner's mindset, another defining habit emerges that determines whether success feels empowering or exhausting, and that habit is taking full ownership of one's choices, actions, and outcomes rather than surrendering control to circumstances or excuses. In the next chapter, we explore how responsibility transforms effort into direction and power. Chapter 7. Ownership and Responsibility. How winners take control of their outcomes. In this chapter, we examine how winners take full responsibility for their decisions and actions, recognizing that ownership is not about blame but about reclaiming control, strengthening discipline, and moving forward with clarity even when life feels unfair or uncertain. Winners do not waste energy blaming circumstances, other people, or the past, because they understand that blame removes power while responsibility restores it. When responsibility is embraced, attention shifts from frustration to action. Action restores momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence reinforces discipline. Progress accelerates naturally. By owning their decisions, winners remove the emotional burden of resentment and helplessness, replacing it with clarity and purpose. Even when outcomes are disappointing, they ask what can be learned or adjusted rather than who is at fault. This perspective preserves energy. Preserved energy fuels effort. Effort sustains progress. Responsibility becomes empowering rather than heavy. Direction becomes clear. Ownership also includes acknowledging mistakes honestly, because denying responsibility delays growth while accepting it creates opportunity for improvement. Awareness increases, reflection deepens, correction becomes possible, self-respect strengthens, confidence stabilizes, growth continues forward rather than stalling. Winners understand that responsibility means making choices aligned with long-term values rather than short-term comfort, even when doing so feels inconvenient or uncomfortable. They do not wait for perfect conditions, they act with what is available. Commitment remains intact. Consistency strengthens. Discipline stabilizes. Progress continues despite uncertainty. This habit eliminates victim mentality, which quietly erodes motivation and focus by convincing people that effort is meaningless. Responsibility restores agency. Agency fuels initiative. Initiative creates momentum. Winners remain engaged even when conditions are imperfect. As responsibility becomes habitual, winners experience freedom because their direction no longer depends on external validation or approval. Confidence becomes internal. Growth becomes intentional. Life feels guided rather than reactive. Ultimately, ownership transforms success from something hoped for into something actively created, allowing winners to shape outcomes rather than wait for them. Responsibility becomes power. Power becomes progress. Progress becomes purpose. With discipline, routines, focus, balance, resilience, growth, and responsibility working together, the final habit of winners reveals itself not as a single action, but as a long-term commitment to direction, meaning, and patience across every stage of life. In this final chapter, we explore how long-term vision allows success to last rather than fade. Chapter 8. Long-term vision. How winners sustain success over a lifetime. In this chapter, we explore how winners develop and maintain a long-term vision that guides daily habits and decisions, allowing success to grow steadily across changing seasons of life without losing balance, purpose, or fulfillment. Winners think beyond immediate results because they understand that real success is measured not by short-term achievement, but by the ability to sustain progress, health, and meaning over time. Vision gives meaning to effort. Meaning sustains discipline. Discipline maintains consistency. Consistency compounds progress. Success becomes stable rather than fragile. This long-term perspective allows winners to tolerate discomfort and delay gratification, knowing that steady effort produces results that intensity alone cannot sustain. Urgency fades. Patience strengthens. Focus remains steady. Confidence deepens quietly. Progress continues even without recognition. Winners integrate habits into identity, allowing success behaviors to feel natural rather than forced. Discipline becomes routine. Focus becomes default. Learning remains ongoing. Balance is respected. Life aligns with values. Growth feels sustainable. by viewing success as a process rather than a destination. Winners avoid the emptiness that often follows achievement without purpose. Fulfillment remains connected to effort. Motivation becomes internal. Satisfaction deepens. This vision also allows winners to adapt as life evolves, because direction remains clear even when details change. Priorities shift calmly. Growth continues. Success remains relevant. Over time, these habits reinforce one another, creating a system that supports progress even during uncertainty, fatigue, or challenge. Momentum becomes internal. Confidence stabilizes. Effort feels aligned. In the end, winners succeed not because of a single habit, but because they commit to living intentionally, patiently, and consistently over time, allowing success to grow naturally rather than be chased endlessly. Vision guides action. Habits sustain momentum, and success becomes a way of life rather than a fleeting moment. As this audiobook comes to an end, it becomes clear that success is not the result of luck, talent, or sudden breakthroughs, but the outcome of daily habits practiced with patience, discipline, and intention over time, often long before any visible results appear. Throughout these chapters, you have explored how winners build discipline, design routines, protect focus, manage energy, respond to failure, commit to growth, take responsibility, and maintain long-term vision, not as isolated techniques, but as interconnected habits that quietly shape character, direction, and outcomes. When these habits work together, success stops feeling fragile or dependent on motivation, and instead becomes something steady, grounded, and repeatable, built through consistency rather than force. If this audiobook helped you reflect, realign, or better understand what it truly takes to build winning habits, we invite you to subscribe to Freema audiobooks like this audiobook and share it with someone who is committed to personal growth and long-term success, because the right message at the right time can quietly change the direction of a life. You are also encouraged to leave a comment and share which chapter or idea resonated with you the most, as your feedback not only supports this channel but helps shape future audiobooks designed to support discipline, clarity, and meaningful progress. Thank you for listening to Freema audiobooks, and remember that success is not something you wait for or chase endlessly, but something you build patiently, deliberately, and daily through the habits you choose to repeat.